Welcome to the Inside Indiana podcast. I'm Ed Magoni. This is Sean Morrison and Zach Osterman with me today. We were just wrapping up our Media Day coverage of the Hoosiers. And guys, I'd like to get your impression of what you learned at the Media Day and who made an impression on you. Zach, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big takeaway today, at least from what the coaches were saying, what Kevin Wilson was saying, was I think they were pleased with how their team came out of the summer. Kevin Wilson's talked ad nauseum at this point about how important he thinks the summer is because it's player-led, because it's all about getting your body in shape, and the coaches, other than the strength staff, the coaches can't be involved. So all of the technique stuff, all of the, any throwing sessions or anything that might relate to playbooks and things like that, that all has to be player-led. And it seems like, they're pleased with the way that they came out, with the way their team came out. Obviously, they've only had one practice. They weren't in pads. It was just helmets and shorts and shirts. But, it seemed like from what everyone was saying, they like the hand they've been dealt out of the summer. And I guess if I were Kevin Wilson, I would say it's on to the next phase.
Sean?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It was a very positive mindset from both the players and the coaches today. One thing that Coach Wilson mentioned was just the idea that these workouts are voluntary, as Zach had mentioned, and at the same time, he said that pretty much every player that is on that roster right now was here this summer and was doing the voluntary workouts. Much different outlook than the last couple of years. So that's a big step toward this, and then just the speed was the biggest thing for the players, speed and conditioning, and coming into this a lot faster and a lot better condition than they have in the past couple of years. That's going to go a long way toward making more strides in terms of the technique things and being able to start off on that foot rather than trying to get back into shape.
Now, the quarterbacks weren't available today, but we were able to talk to some of my wide receivers and the offensive, co-offensive coordinators about the situation there at quarterback. And, guys, what did that reveal to you, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, they weren't talking too much. Coach Wilson seemed to come back a little bit, soften his stance a little bit on the idea of using two QBs. It sounds like that's still not something he really wants to do. He kind of talked today. I think this was sort of a fairly relevant statement toward the quarterback situation because of the personnel Indiana has at that position. But one thing he said you have to really concern yourself with if you use two QBs is if you have two QBs that aren't that similar, then you're essentially in a lot of ways going to run two different offenses, and you have to train your offense to essentially play two different ways. One quarterback is a drop back passer, a pocket passer. If another quarterback is more mobile, then the offensive line is going to need to do different things. The receivers are going to need to be ready to do different things. And so that sounded like something he was concerned with, but he did soften his stance. I think at Media Day he simply said he wouldn't do it. Here he said he'd consider it, but it sounded like it's still something he wasn't very interested in doing. It seemed like everybody praised Trey Roberson a lot, the freshman quarterback out of Lawrence Central, reigning Indiana Mr. Football. They've talked all since the spring about this sort of split squad practice they run where they cut the team in half and everybody then, ostensibly gets twice the number of reps they get before. I think the number Wilson said with Roberson was either 60 to 70 or 70 to 80. I can't remember exactly how many, but that's how many reps he got yesterday. And Rod Smith, the quarterback's coach, said he thought that Roberson had a really good first day. He said he thinks his mechanics need some work, but that they're a lot better than a lot of people think they are. So it seemed like everybody was interested in at least mentioning Trey Roberson. Obviously, everybody's still hedging their bets. I think Wilson said he wasn't going to talk about the position until the position battle with his coaches until probably at least the end of this week, just to kind of get a feel for where all the guys are at. But it's as wide open now as it's been since Wilson got here.
Sean, I know you talked to Deweese Wilson for a while, one of the returning wide receivers. Did he have any comments about the quarterback situation or how he feels about them using multiple quarterbacks in practice?
It's pretty much a similar line to what DeMarlo Belcher mentioned during Big Ten Media Days. All the players pretty much feel comfortable with any of those of the four that were already here, and then Trey Roberson. It's one of those things where just the number of reps that people are getting, they said that pretty much everyone is comfortable in the offense, is very fluid, and obviously there are some differences between the different quarterbacks. They've got some mobile guys like Dusty Keel and Ed Wright Baker, and then Follett and Shell are more of drop-back guys. But just from talking with Deweese, it seems like really the only thing that any of the players are concerned about. They're not concerned about the way that they'll run the offense. It's more just knowing who it's going to be and establishing that more of a leadership relationship toward the end of the preseason camp.
Well, and I do think that the one thing that I think Kevin Wilson has been adamant about is the idea of making a decision and sticking with it. Unless, I mean, I think that's why he's willing to wait so long. I mean, I think he said at Big Ten Media Days that he didn't name Sam Bradford until 10 days before the first game as a starting quarterback. And so I think the idea that he wants to be sure in it and he wants to be confident in it, because he said this multiple times, he doesn't want that quarterback looking over his shoulder, wondering if I make a mistake here or there, am I going to get pulled? So I think that he's going to take probably about as much time as he feels he needs to make that decision. Could be most of camp, but once he does, I'd be surprised if it's not something he's stuck with, barring something ridiculously unforeseen, injury or just a complete and total lack of productivity. I think that he's looking for a guy that he knows is going to be the starting quarterback all season.
All right, well, that's all we've got for you today. We're going to be back here for practice this evening. And until next time, this is Sean Morrison and Zach Osterman. I'm Ed Magoni. We'll catch you next time.